I don't need it. I definitely don't need it. I 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 need it!
It's a dog-eat-dog world in the video game industry where only the strongest can survive. To do so, you gotta ensure that you can hit your customers where it hurts the most. Right in the pocketbook, purse, wallet purse, whatever. The most effective method.
Do you really believe your own hype that much? I am the hype!
It doesn't matter if your game is a masterpiece, just great, relatively okay, or just a steaming pile of quat. The trailers and promised features will make you feel like you can't physically function unless you let them take your money. So for this list, I'll be covering the games that managed to grab our attention, along with whether or not they managed to deliver on whatever ambitious promises they shoved in our faces. Afterwards, it'll be up to you to decide. Give in to the hype and burn a hole in your wallet, or be the responsible gamer who waits for the summer sale, and then burns a hole in your wallet.
Error 37! Error 37! I keep trying to log in and I get error 37!
So yeah, Diablo 3. This is certain, alright, there's no way to walk around this. At launch, it was a disappointment and a disaster. Those are not mutually exclusive. That said, before launch, the advertising for this game was high. Riding off the coattails of the uber-successful Diablo franchise, Diablo 3 promised to have updated graphics, refined gameplay, and a real-world auction house. Games like Blizzard's World of Warcraft feature an auction house using in-game money. Diablo 3 promised to make an auction house that could use real money, allowing players to make a bit of cash while playing their game. TV shows like X-Play and other industry professionals like Extra Credits talked about how this real-world auction house could lead to a new kind of job, similar to how YouTube created the whole online entertainer thing. All of this along with being a sequel to one of Blizzard's most beloved franchise? Sign me up!
Yeah! That turned out well.
In reality, the game was very buggy on launch. Many people made videos getting annoyed with various features, and the auction house was just a way for Activision to try and force players to pay real money for gear. Blizzard learned that day that hype was a double-edged sword. You don't deliver, you better hope you have a Moses deliver you. The game was fixed with the Reaper of Souls expansion, which is when I started playing, so I never had to experience the pain that others suffered. The microtransactions were removed, and the game looks to have a promising— wait. Activision is not developing any more DLC because of Diablo Immortals? Great, that's another one to add to the list of dead dreams.
Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones, right?
Let's rock.
Duke Nukem Forever had been locked in development hell for so long, it earned the moniker Duke Nukem Taking Forever. After 13 years of engine changes, delays, studio closings, statements becoming memes, parodies, it seemed like the Duke was going to fade into legend. However, when that trailer finally hit the net, all that hype suddenly came back full force. People started playing the demo and having a blast. In just a few short minutes, it promised a return of all the things that made the original titles the classics that they are. Heavy, violent action, pop cultural humor, among other risque elements.
Boobies.
And just the overall feeling of an iconic hero coming out of retirement to kick some alien butt yet again. The hammer in how much this game needed to happen and how much we needed it to happen after all these years. Well, we finally got the sequel we've apparently been aching for, and...
Horrible!
Yeah, we all know it's a bad game, and the countless parodies like that one are just testaments to how much people really wanted this game to be good. Despite my misgivings about some of the franchise's content, I can't help but feel a pang of empathy for anyone who is excited for this. I'm putting it this low on the list because the hype for it was a very slow burn, followed by ending it not with a bang, but a whimper. Okay, this is the last negative entry on this list for a while, I swear. But we still gotta talk about Destiny. Back when Microsoft got their hands on Bungie Studios, they ended up creating a first-person shooter experience that rocked the nation to its core with the Halo series. Then it was announced around the late 2000s that Bungie would leave Microsoft to strike out on their own as their own gaming company. It's been 10 years or so since Bungie had been with Microsoft, and in that time they released hit after hit, with their most disappointing games being Halo ODST, a solid 8 out of 10, and maybe Halo Wars? I know a lot of people that like that one. I can't understate how successful and trusted Bungie was. This was a company who had not made a bad product for more than a decade. A company that shaped what shooters are and could be. A company which introduced the idea of rechargeable shields, which would then be later cashed in by imitators. In years past, we heard of many Halo killers such as Time Splitters, Killzone, Gears of War, but nothing managed to topple Master Chief's reign over consoles. Until now. Destiny was on the horizon and it looked gorgeous. It looked like the company was fully embracing its heritage from its time at Microsoft by basically promising an open world Halo killer as you take control of a knight-like guardian given a second chance at life into a new golden age 700 years in the future. It combined RPG storytelling, well-designed maps, and the company's all too familiar FPS gameplay to create one huge MMO sci-fi adventure. And oh boy was it underwhelming! The game was rushed, the loot system comically broken, and the lack of any and all story elements in the game itself. Many of the head developers quit Bungie after disputes with Activision, and the Jolly Green Giant himself is still trucking on by. And hype history repeated itself with Destiny 2. What is it with space MMOs and this always happening?
But there's one they fear. In their tongue, he's Dovahkiin, Dragonborn.
And that was the reaction of everyone in early 2011 who got to experience the hype leading up to Bethesda's next big RPG after Fallout 3. Yes, I know New Vegas was a thing, but that was Obsidian, not Bethesda Game Studios. To make this wait even worse for hardcore fans, Bethesda didn't actually give us that much information outside of this trailer. A few gameplay clips, a few interviews with Todd Howard, and some devlogs released a few weeks before the game came out were there. The wait was intense and was clearly something that many people felt. If you look at this Harry Partridge video, which managed to break 11 million views before the game even launched and is currently sitting at 22 million views right now. Memes, jokes, and speculation ran rampant in the forums, which hyped the game to an insane degree. And you know what's even more crazy? Skyrim kinda lived up to the high expectations we had set for it at the time. Sure, it doesn't exactly look like Crysis 3, but for 2011, the game looked beautiful. The models for the first time didn't look like someone punching Play-Doh for an hour, looking at you, Oblivion, and a single-player RPG finally managed to get worldwide appeal in territories like Japan. For those too young to remember, or who happen to miss out, the hype was so real that a mother named their kid Dovahkiin for a mock contest being hosted by Bethesda. It stipulated if you named your kid born on the launch date 11/11/11 Dovahkiin, you will win free Bethesda games for life. Well, she won that contest, but I wonder how well that would have went if she named her kid after a character in Fallout 76. Suddenly this gets a lot darker. Ever since the Pokemon series launched over into the mainstream American market, fans have been dreaming of walking around with their own pocket monsters. We got a taste of it in Pokemon Yellow, Soul Silver, and Heart Gold. We got to fight as them in Smash Brothers, and we even got a bee Pokemon in the Mystery Dungeon series. But it wasn't until 2016 that an announcement confirmed what had been rumored and begged for decades. Pokemon in real life, in the palm of your hands, for free.
How could I refuse? I can't afford the money cost variety.
Pokemon Go was a revolution for mobile games. It wasn't pay to play, it was walk to play. It encouraged traders to exercise, had region-exclusive Pokemon like the games did, and pitted fans all over the world against each other in one of 3 teams. Team Valor, led by the fiery powerhouse Candela, Team Mystic, led by the cool scientific Blanche, and Team Instinct, led by Spark. Just Spark. He has the memes. For months, the internet lost their minds at the possibility of a free Pokemon game where you could catch Pokemon in the real world. Yes, it would require people to go outside.
The memes about exercise alone get Go on here.
One can accurately measure this game's hype by looking at how it temporarily changed the world. For a good 6 months to a year afterwards, you could find people everywhere walking around at all times of the day in order to get more supplies and capture as many pocket monsters as possible. There were news stories about how people were losing weight just from playing and how the game saved lives. Starbucks got in on it and made a special themed drink, as well as made all their stores into Pokestops. Some shops even offered deals based on your team. Even better, with how the battle system worked, people were inclined to help one another and find more Pokemon and Pokestops rather than sabotage them. Now, the game did get off to a rocky start with how big of a drain it was on both the battery and data, and features that are staples of the franchise like trading Pokemon were curiously missing because Niantic was a small company. But they listened to the fans and rectified the issues as soon as they could. Since its release, they've updated the Pokedex with newer regions and legendary raids. Now, while the game doesn't have nearly as many users that it had when it started out, I give them props for continuing to improve their product. I don't think anyone was prepared for the quality and success Call of Duty 4 was. By jumping into the fresh and new modern day instead of the tired setting of World War II, Infinity Ward breathed new life into the franchise. Custom loadouts for your preferred weapons and perks, kill streaks, a dozen new game modes, and a campaign with a frankly excellent narrative, you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who doesn't like it. Yeah, it had some issues, but they were obviously negligible enough that people who weren't a fan of FPSs at the time, including myself, began to give these kinds of games a chance. So when the sequel was announced, hype was already high. All eyes were on them to make lightning strike twice. And yeah, it did, partially due to how smartly they marketed it. Details on the game were super sparse, intentionally so. Every other week they would drip feed new information and everyone just ate it up. Having a game end because someone didn't know they were the host and they quit? No longer an issue. Wait, you could pick your own kill streaks? Sweet! Wait. You could drop a nuke? And I haven't even started with the attention the campaign got. The trailer saw the same drip feed strategy. We saw underwater missions, a snowmobile section, and everyone freaked out when they finally saw that slow pan up to the destroyed White House. And heck, even the news media freaked out regarding the No Russian mission, rallying the fan base and even sideliners to defend it and causing even more hype. Did the game live up to the buzz? For the most part, yeah. Sure, there were a few unbalanced mechanics that needed a patch, but I don't think Call of Duty would be the super titan franchise it is today without the hype and follow-through of Modern Warfare 2. Heck, when Call of Duty 4 Remastered was released, people were wondering when Modern Warfare 2 would get its remaster. Details are sparse at the moment. I know you drip-fed the original Activision, but it's been months since a new detail. What could possibly be taking up your...
Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones, right?
You are so getting a fails list.
Sometimes we just need to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And when we do, thought of that light sustains you and allows you to push through bad times. I mean, with January 2018 being one of the longest months ever.
I think we can legally consider it 3 months. Any objections?
And then the rest of the year either being a slog or zipping by without much of a trace, we needed something to look forward to. We needed a bit of happy. We needed something to bring us all together. But what could it be? Wait, what's this?
I see the light, and it's like the fog is lifted.
Praise be to Sakurai!
I think it's fair to say that after the last year we'd lived through, Super Smash Ultimate was a welcome way to cap off 2018. And with every new character announced, every new poll, every new trailer, our joy and anticipation just kept spiking. Memes abounded with every word from Nintendo's lips. Wholesome Isabelle, cute Inklings, Joker for DLC, the World of Light, the freaking trailer that everyone dubbed with everything. And we lapped it up as something we had all been waiting for. The return of classic characters that had been left behind. Hello again, Roy, my boy. And the introduction of long-requested video game veterans as well as wildcard options made the casual gamers and die-hard Melee champions froth at the mouth.
Yes! The great thing about the Smash games is that there's something in it for everyone. And in a time where controversy after controversy divides the gaming community, it's uplifting to see something be regarded for more of the good things that it does than the minuscule bad things.
Not to say that the wait didn't have its problems. Hackers still went in and played the game before its release, but that actually worked in the game's favor. The debacle left him with free positive buzz, and sales since its December 7 release have boomed. Fingers crossed for Kefka DLC! I appreciate you, Sakurai, and I'm totally okay with not having him.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Mind has been blown. Repeat, mind has been blown.
Those are good days.
The way Sean Murray built up this game felt like it was giving players access to an entire universe of exploration in the palm of their hands and in their screens. Exploring the stars, seeing what each new world has to offer, massively epic space combat, and one of its biggest hook promises, getting a chance to interact with other players you come across on other planets as the universe expands around you. There was no one not talking about this ambitious project, and it seemed almost guaranteed to be a bestseller on Steam. The gameplay footage and screenshots made everything all the more enticing, even though, like, 90% of it was fake.
This is a fake!
Yes, but it's a good fake. Ow.
You made me quote Son of the Mask. I hope you're happy.
Turns out that scamming your customers with holo guarantees kinda upsets people, who would have guessed? There have been rants and reviews tearing this game a new one. I've seen lists that pick apart every single minuscule promise that No Man's Sky couldn't keep, and sadly there have been death threats directed towards the creators. While I definitely don't endorse that last one, Murray brought the first two upon himself by trying to give his project bravado that he couldn't deliver. Even with the upgrades that supposedly give us some of what we want, we can't really save what's left of this game's reputation. Yeah, that reaction right there says it all. The excitement generated by Twilight Princess's reveal at E3 2004 was staggering. Keep in mind that this is the first main series Zelda game to come after Wind Waker. Sure, we consider Wind Waker among the best of the Zelda series now, as it deserves to be, but back then it was a huge disappointment because many fans wanted a more direct sequel to Ocarina of Time.
What was Majora's Mask? Chopped liver?
Admittedly though, the timing was right. This was the age when fans were eating up the darker and edgier tones of video games, and if the trailers were anything to go by, this is the game Zelda fans were waiting for. Dark atmosphere, an epic and grand world to explore, a more human-looking Link, and eldritch monsters to take down. And unlike the previous game, Twilight Princess lived up to the excitement. It was released in 2006, the same year we got games like Gears of War, Guitar Hero 3, Elder Scrolls Oblivion, and Call of Duty 3. And Twilight Princess outperformed all of these games in reviews and sales, rated by Metacritic as the greatest game of 2006 and selling over 5 million copies in the span of only 5 years. We could probably also credit this game for the Wii's initial success. With the added charm of the hyped up motion controls, primitive as they might have been, Twilight Princess was responsible for selling a lot of Wii consoles, and that was despite the fact that it was also released for the GameCube. I still remember that there was a lot of discussion among the community about the fact that Link was going to be right-handed for the Wii version to accommodate a mostly right-handed audience. Which to some was just fine, but to some hardcore fans was considered blasphemy. Even though he was ambidextrous in the original NES, but chances are that they bought the game anyway. It also led to the GameCube and Wii versions being completely flipped horizontally, which was honestly kind of weird. Even years after the game's release, the hype for Twilight Princess still exists, eventually leading to the admittedly charming Link's crossbow training and the HD remake for the Wii U. And looking back at it now, it makes a lot of sense. Sure, the game's flaws are much more apparent to us now, but even then, Twilight Princess did a lot right. The adventure was fulfilling, the bosses were amazing, Midna is loads of fun, Xanta's a chillingly entertaining villain, we got one of the best iterations of Ganondorf, and some of the greatest dungeons in Zelda history. It was hyped before its release, it was hyped during its release, and it's hyped even years after. Some franchises get bad reps for being nothing but glorified brown gun simulators with bland brunette army guy protagonists and the same plot over and over. And while some games have earned that ire, one franchise that set the bar for first-person shooters in the modern era never quite caved into this stereotype, probably because it takes place in space! It had been 3 years since the competitive needle fest that was Halo 2, and fans were itching for the next installment. The game ended on a total cliffhanger, promising to finish the fight, which would eventually be one of the best taglines. The production staff of the series were incredibly clever with their marketing with the release of the comic tie-in Halo Uprising that, unknown to the public, was actually a lead-in to where the game picked up. Meanwhile, even though they provided weekly updates on their website, Bungie was very careful to keep single-player story aspects close to the chest following their well-received reveal at 2006's E3.
Considering that Halo 3 is one of the best parts, good call.
But perhaps the biggest contributors to the hype were, oddly enough, the huge leaks that happened within the last few months of Halo 3's development. First, some people got a hold of the final testing copy called Epsilon and leaked it online.
Oh, son of a...
Microsoft responded by banning their accounts, of course, but only until the year 9999. They can wait it out. Then 2 weeks before the release date, the game started to seemingly be available on eBay, causing people to lose their minds and try and get them. And then, a week later, the UK catalog Argos started selling the game early too. The latter one was just an honest mistake and they didn't get punished, but the availability of the game allowed people to leak Halo's story elements online. A lot of videos at the end cutscene surfaced, which non-spoiler purists like me believed would kill the hype.
But this time it didn't. Go figure.
Consumers went nuts trying to get the game so they could see how Chief died, what happened to Johnson and Keyes, who this grade mine was, and maybe, just maybe, they'd finally see the face behind the helmet. The leaks all boosted sales because people wanted to see why it was so big. First day sales set a record for highest gross of an entertainment product within 24 hours of its release at $170 million and boosted the sales of the Xbox 360 consoles exponentially. Even the fanboy hatred in response to the game only served as fuel for the game's success. Yeah, even then, gamers still didn't understand that if you want something to die, don't talk about it. And to this day, it's still considered one of the best games in the franchise, even if many of us will never forgive it for killing Johnson.
I'm the Fiery Joker, and I bet you thought that Kingdom Hearts 3 was going to be on here, right? I talk about the series so much, and it has 15 years of hype behind it. Well, guess what? Oh, you bet it's happening!
Cut!